I first got into competitive Pokemon just 3 years ago. And looking back on it, there are some things I wish I knew about the mechanics of the game that no one told me. Things that just don't usually come up in a normal playthrough, but are hard baked into the soul of VGC. And with Pokemon Champions coming out very soon now, and the return of fan favorite Mega Pokemon, I want to go over some of the niche mechanical and important tactical knowledge that I've had to learn in order to improve my playstyle. Others starting out like I did might not know about. Originally, I was going to start off talking about a specific move that is on almost every team at the higher levels of play, Fake Out, a weak normal type move that flinches and moves at an increased speed of priority, a move I used a lot when I first started to ensure that I could set up Trick Room, a move that has the lowest priority of any move. Then I started to thinking, why not start talking about what these moves both have in common? Priority. Priority really refers to a bracket in which each move occurs, of which there are around 13 separate brackets. When most players talk about priority and the various priority moves, what they're usually talking about is positive priority. See, the bracket ranges from up to +5 priority for the highest priority, all the way down to -7 for the lowest priority. For the vast majority of moves, they'll be moving at bracket 0, or neutral priority, and what goes first will be determined by each Pokemon's individual speed stat. There is at least one move at each stage of priority except for the -1 and -2 stages, although -1 had been used by various moves up until Generation 9, when the very last move left the -1 bracket, Vital Throw, as it was removed from the game. The +5 to -7 bracket system is part of the game's internal code, so despite the -2 bracket having never been used in all of Pokemon history, it's still part of the game since Generation 3. If two Pokemon use a move that are of the same priority level, just like at neutral priority, which one moves first is determined by their speed stat. Knowing when a specific move will occur is very important to VGC, as high priority moves can be used to get around a Pokemon's middling speed stat. As it currently stands in Generation 9, there are 12 moves that have a negative priority and 34 moves that have a positive priority. And while some of these moves are unlikely to make an appearance in your average VGC match, some of them are absolutely vital to the game. Unsurprisingly, most of the moves you'll see while playing VGC are these positive priority moves. Perhaps moving before your opponent is usually ideal. So let's go through the various brackets and the various moves therein. Starting off with the +5 bracket, we have only one move. This move will happen before any other move in the game, and if you've only ever played single battles, you probably have never used it before. Helping Hand. This is a mainstay of dedicated support Pokemon, as it provides a 50% power boost to the allied Pokemon's attack this turn. Having such a huge priority level ensures that it always happens before the allied Pokemon attacks. Moving on to the +4 priority bracket, all of these moves are focused around protecting the user. These include Protect, Detect, Baneful Bunker, Burning Bulwark, King's Shield, Obstruct, Spiky Shield, and Silk Trap. Protect, Detect, Spiky Shield, and Baneful Bunker all prevent the user from being affected by status moves and from taking damage from attacks targeting it, while the rest only prevent damage from physical and special attacks, but have important secondary effects that trigger when they block a move that would make contact. Another move at this priority level is Endure, which ensures that a Pokemon will survive all damage it takes this turn with at least one hit point. All these moves share a similar property, in that anytime you use one of these moves, if you try to do so again, or use another one of these moves during the next turn, the odds of it being successful drops drastically. There's more to be said about the mechanics specifically around the various protection moves in more detail, but that'll have to be for another video. At +3 priority, things start to get interesting. There's only 4 moves in this bracket as of Generation 9, but some of these are of vital importance. First off, we have the aforementioned Fake Out. It does a small amount of damage but causes the target to flinch, causing it to essentially skip its turn. However, it can only be used the first turn a Pokemon is on the battlefield, since it's switched in, leading to a lot of its users to switch in and out to reset Fake Out. A very powerful move, and a big reason why some Pokemon are used at all is because they even get the move. But 2 moves that this bracket can counter it: Foot Guard and Upper Hand. Foot Guard protects the user's side from all moves that have an increased stage of priority. Upper Hand deals a decent amount of chip damage, but only works if the target of the attack is using a positive priority physical or special attack, and then causes them to flinch. An important thing to note though, since all three of these moves are at the same bracket level, whichever Pokemon is fastest will go first. Let's take this for example. Let's say Rillaboom and Iron Valiant are on one side of the field, and Iron Hands and Incineroar are on the other. Iron Valiant moves first and uses the move Quick Guard, as its partner Rillaboom uses Fake Out on Incineroar, causing it to flinch as it attempted to use Fake Out, which would have failed regardless due to the Quick Guard. And Iron Hands' Upper Hand will fail against the Rillaboom, because it is both A, the last to move in the turn, and there are no other positive priority moves for it to target, and because of the Quick Guard. The fourth move in this bracket is Wide Guard. This move is similar to the protection moves in bracket 4 as it protects both the user and its ally, but only against moves that would target multiple Pokemon, so moves like Earthquake, Sludge Wave, Make It Rain, Expanding Force, etc. So if the opponent went for a single attack like Knockoff or Flamethrower, Wide Guard will do nothing. Unlike the other protection moves, Wide Guard can be used on successive turns with no risk of failure. But if a Pokemon uses Wide Guard, and then attempts to use one of those Bracket 4 protection moves, it will still have the same drop in success as if you were trying to use Protect twice in a row. Plus 2 bracket has a lot of variety in the effects that these moves can do. Let's start with the two redirection moves, Follow Me and Rage Powder. Both of these moves forces the opponents to target the user instead of who they would normally target. You'll commonly see Pokemon like Indeedee using Follow Me to protect its partner to help get Trick Room set up, or Amoonguss using Rage Powder to sponge up attacks. These are incredibly powerful moves, and there are only a few ways to actually get around the redirection effect, such as using a spread move like Dazzling Gleam, using a Duraludon or a Chaludon with their signature ability Stalwart, using a Barraskewda with its ability Propeller Tail, and Inteleon's signature move Snipe Shot. This is balanced by Follow Me not being available to most Pokemon, and most Pokemon with the move also aren't very strong, except for Ogerpon. Rage Powder is much more common, but Rage Powder cannot affect Grass-type Pokemon or a Pokemon holding the Safety Goggles item. The next three moves all deal damage. Firstly, we have First Impression, a powerful Bug-type physical attack, having 90 base power, the highest damage of any positive priority move. But like Fake Out, will only work the first turn the Pokemon is on the battlefield. Only 7 Pokemon even learn this move in Generation 9, being Phalanx, the Low-Kicks line, Slitherwing, Trapinch, Axew, and Tarantula. And none of them are, well, good in VGC. The next move is Extreme Speed, an 80 base power normal type move. This move played a big role in Dragonite's first major success in VGC, combining a Choice Band, Terra Normal, and Chien-Pao's Sword of Ruin ability to do absurd damage. The two Arcanines will occasionally use it as well, as will Rayquaza when it's legal. For the third move, it's a little weird. Tanked is a 30 base power move that hits a target regardless if they use a protection move, Wide Guard, or Quick Guard, and will remove the effects of those moves. Weirdly, it gets around Quick Guard, a move specifically designed to block positive priority moves. That's just how it works. The last move in this bracket is called Ally Switch. This move swaps the positions of the user with its ally. This is used in Generation 8 on Pokemon like Shedinja, a Pokemon that is immune to nearly all types, to essentially take a bullet for its ally, and allow a Pokemon like Kyogre to get off full health Water Spouts. The move dropped off in Generation 9, however, as it received a major nerf. Now, like the protection moves, it also drops in chance to succeed when used on back-to-back turns. Now for the +1 priority bracket, there's a lot of similarity. This bracket also has the most amount of moves of any bracket besides bracket 0, that is. Let's start with the simplest group, 40 base power moves. These moves deal a small amount of chip damage to balance out their +1 priority. These moves are Accelerock, Project, Bullet Punch, Base Shard, Mach Punch, Quick Attack, Shadow Sneak, and Vacuum Wave. Unlike Extreme Speed and First Impression, these moves are available for far more Pokemon, with the exception of Accelerock, since that's a signature move of Midday and Dusk Lycanroc. Also, besides Vacuum Wave, all of these moves are physical attacks. Next, let's talk about the two Water-type signature moves in this bracket, Jet Punch and Water Shuriken. Jet Punch is pretty basic. It's the signature move of Palafin, and the only difference between it and Aqua Jet is that it's 60 base power. Water Shuriken is weird. It is the signature move of Greninja, and is a variable multi-hit move, meaning a move that hits the target 2 to 5 times, like Bullet Seed. However, it is the lowest power of the moves that do that, only 15 base power, and it's the only one of those moves to be a special attack. The next two moves I want to talk about are Sucker Punch and Thunderclap. These two moves have the same base power at 70, and have the same restriction. These moves only work if the target Pokemon selected a physical or special attack this turn. These moves will also fail if they move after the target, say if a Dragonite had clicked Extreme Speed and has already moved first for the turn. The only differences are that Sucker Punch is a physical Dark-type move that a few good Pokemon have access to, while Thunderclap is a special Electric-type move that is the signature move of Raging Bolt. The next move is the last attack in this bracket, Grassy Glide. Now, Grassy Glide only moves at +1 priority if there is grassy terrain on the battlefield. Otherwise, it moves at neutral priority. When it was originally added to the game in Generation 8, it had 70 base power, although it receives a 1.3 times damage boost due to grassy terrain, so it essentially was a 91 base power move, the strongest in the game. Which would have been fine if Rillaboom, which learns both the move and its hidden ability sets up grassy terrain for free when it switches in, didn't exist. Going into Generation 9, it was reduced to 60 base power, with the terrain boost around 78. But even this was seen as still too strong, so the move was further reduced to 55 base power, leaving it to be around as strong as Sucker Punch and Thunderclap at 71.5 base power. The last move in the bracket is also the only status move to naturally be at +1 priority, Baby Doll Eyes. This move simply reduces the physical attack of the target by 1 stage, and is learned by a lot of conventionally cute Pokemon, such as the Evolutions, Teddiursa, Minccino, Mimikyu, etc. Now, we're going to skip the next 3 brackets, as neutral priority is basically the standard for all moves, and as I mentioned earlier, there are currently no moves in the -1 or -2 brackets. So, that brings us to the -3 bracket, which has, notably, 3 moves: Beak Blast, Focus Punch, and Shell Trap. While technically they are at -3 priority, they actively activate at the very start of the turn, before even Helping Hand would occur. This activation simply states that these moves are going to be used. Then they'll deal their damage at the -3 bracket stage. If the user is hit by a move before the -3 bracket stage, then a secondary effect will occur. For Beak Blast, the signature move of Toucannon, if a move that hits Toucannon made contact, then the Pokemon that hit Toucannon will be burned. Shell Trap is the signature move of Turtonator, so the move can't be used in Generation 9 since Turtonator isn't in Paldea. When the turtle comes back, so will the move. If Turtonator is hit by a physical move before the -3 bracket stage, Shell Trap will immediately trigger, meaning that if Turtonator is, say, hit by Extreme Speed, Shell Trap will actually move before a move like Sucker Punch. But if the user is never hit by a physical move, the move will fail and do nothing. Focus Punch isn't a signature move, and is powerful at 150 base power. However, if the user is hit by an attack, physical or special, before the -3 bracket stage, the user loses their focus, and the move is wasted. Because of these restrictions, Toucannon just being a bad Pokemon, and Turtonator's non-existence, you'll pretty much never see any of these moves in VGC. There's only one move in the -4 bracket, Avalanche. This physical Ice-type move is only 60 base power, but if the user is hit by an attack this turn, it doubles to 120 base power. There really isn't anything more to this move. Alright, at the -5 bracket, there's only ever been 2 moves in it since it was created in Generation 3, Counter and Mirror Coat. Counter is a physical fighting type move that will deal double the amount of damage dealt to the user this turn to the last Pokemon that hit it, as long as the damage was physical. This move's damage is not impacted by same type attack bonus, or if it is, super effective or resisted, with the exception of ghost types being immune. Simply, if the Pokemon took, say, 50 damage, then it will deal 100 damage back. Miracle is a special psychic type move that does the exact same thing. The main difference being that it works off of special damage rather than physical, and instead of ghost types being immune, dark types are. Also, if a Pokemon is hit by an attack but receives 0 damage, such as being hit by a False Swipe while at 0 HP, or if the Pokemon was already at 1 HP and survived due to a Focus Band, then Counter and Miracle will still deal 1 damage for some reason, even though 0 doubled is still 0. What's weirder still is that these moves only work because they have such a low priority. They are not the lowest priority damage moves in the game. At the -6 bracket, these 5 moves all have the similar gimmick. Focus on switching Pokemon out of battle. Circle Throw and Dragon Tail are the only 2 that deal damage, and they are the lowest priority damage dealing moves in the game. They both only have 60 base power, only 90% accuracy, and when they hit the target is forced to switch out to the next Pokemon in the party. The only difference between these moves is the type, as Circle Throw can't hit ghost types, and Dragon Tail can't hit fairy types. The next 2 moves are Roar and Whirlwind. They have the same effect, but are status moves, so they don't deal any damage. But also can't miss and will bypass Protect. Both these moves have a niche immunity, however. Roar is a sound move, a subcategory of moves, and if the Pokemon has the ability Soundproof, they can't be affected by it. And Whirlwind is a wind move, another subcategory. And if the Pokemon has the ability Wind Rider, they also can't be affected. And they even get an attack boost if you would try. The last move in this bracket is Teleport, a psychic type status move that switches the users out instead. This is useful to bring in another Pokemon safely rather than switching them in manually, which happens before any move would occur, and can prevent them from taking massive damage while they're unprotected. All of these moves are very niche, but Roar was actually used on a Pokemon that made it to the finals of the 2025 European International Championships, on the Farigiraf piloted by Dill Yeomans. The last and lowest priority bracket in the game is the -7 priority bracket, and with the exception of Generation 5, only one move has been in this tier since it was created in Generation 4, Trick Room. Out of all the negative priority moves, Trick Room is by far the most used in VGC, and it really isn't close. Entire teams are built around the move, and there isn't any other move that does anything like it. Trick Room inverts the speed order for the next 5 turns, forcing slower Pokemon to move before faster ones. This lets slow but powerful Pokemon like Torkoal get off massive eruptions before any other Pokemon would be able to move. This does not, however, invert priority brackets, so moves like Extreme Speed will still move before Avalanche. Chrome will be used on some teams as a main mode, as the whole team is focused around, or will just be another support option that some teams may use just in case the need arises. It's also used to cancel out the opponent's Trick Room, as if the move is used again while Trick Room is active, Trick Room is cancelled. Circling back around to the moves that force opponents to switch out, Dragon Tail, Circle Throw, Whirlwind, and Roar, as those moves have a higher priority bracket, you can use those moves to force the opponent's Trick Room Pokemon off the battlefield before Trick Room gets set up to deny them Trick Room. There's more to be said about Trick Room as it is a very popular archetype, but again, that'll have to be for another time. Also, the moves Magic Room and Wonder Room did used to be in this bracket in Generation 5, but those moves have since been boosted to be at neutral priority instead. It's probably just because they all had room in the name. And that's the priority brackets. But there are still some important interactions with some abilities, moves, and field effects that can impact the priority brackets more. For abilities, the most important one to mention is Prankster. This ability boosts all of the user's status moves priority by 1. So neutral priority moves like Spore, Light Screen, Thunder Wave, etc. would all move at +1 priority. This doesn't make all status moves activate in the +1 priority bracket, however. As a Prankster Pokemon using Trick Room will only boost its priority to the -6 bracket. Also, all Dark-type Pokemon are immune to status moves used by an opposing Pokemon with Prankster. Gale Wings, the Talonflame line's signature ability, gives a +1 priority to all of the user's Flying-type moves, only when the user is at full HP, so moves like Tailwind and Brave Bird. This does make Brave Bird on a Gale Wings Talonflame the highest base power priority move in the game. Also, Comfey's ability Triage gives a whopping +3 bonus to Comfey's healing moves, such as Draining Kiss, Giga Drain, and its signature move, Floral Healing, causing them to move even before extreme speed. For moves, After Use can be used to cause the target to use its move immediately, ignoring normal priority. You can use this with Lilligant to cause an allied Indeedee to immediately use the move Trick Room at neutral priority. Inversely, the move Quash will cause the target to move at the end of the turn. So hypothetically, a Basculesian using Aqua Jet, normally at +1 priority, is targeted by a Murkrow with a Prankster boosted Quash. In that case, the Aqua Jet would occur after the Pokemon even using Trick Room. A vital thing to know about using positive priority moves is when they just won't work. Like with Dark types being immune to Prankster boosted moves, and like with the move Quick Guard, some Pokemon have abilities that prevent their side of the battlefield from being affected by positive priority moves. 3 of these abilities are completely identical except for their names: Queenly Majesty, Dazzling, and Armor Tail. They are the signature abilities of Tsarina, Rockfish, and Farigiraf, respectively. These abilities prevent all positive priority moves. The last major effect to cover is Psychic Terrain. Like Grassy Terrain, it gives a 1.3 times boost to all Psychic moves. All the terrains have a secondary effect. For Grassy Terrain, it heals all grounded Pokemon by 1/16 of their max HP and halves the power of Earthquake. For Psychic Terrain, it actually blocks the effects of positive priority moves when targeting an opposing side on the battlefield. Neither side can use Fake Out, neither side can use Sucker Punch. Both sides can still use Protect and Helping Hand, as they don't target the opposing side. But again, this protection only applies to grounded Pokemon. While Farigiraf would stop its partner Thundurus from being hit by Fake Out, Psychic Terrain would do nothing to help it. And that's priority. If this has been useful for you, please give the video a like and comment down below. I like making videos like these, and it gives me something to work on when I have nothing else to edit. I plan on making more videos about the mechanics and basics of Pokemon battles and VGC team building in the future, so keep an eye out for the next one. Goodbye!